Okay, welcome everyone to this deep dive.
Hello.
Today we're exploring Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Now, that's a name most of you will know, but maybe not the whole picture, the full, really incredible life behind it.
Yeah, we all know him for, well, that book, obviously, The Little Prince.
Right.
But the material we're looking at today, it pulls back the curtain quite a bit. We've got excerpts about his life, his military service, his time as a pilot.
And yes, still delving into The Little Prince, but also his other writings too.
Exactly. So the idea is to really unpack who Saint-Exupéry was.
More than just the author, the man of action too.
Definitely. The pilot facing danger and, trying to pull out those timeless insights you find in his experiences and his words.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the action part. That seems so fundamental to him.
It really was.
He wasn't like a writer who occasionally flew. He was a pilot, a military pilot.
Through and through. And when World War II started, 1939, well, the sources show, even though he'd been badly hurt in a crash before.
Yeah, severe injuries.
He immediately applied to serve again. French Air Force, and they took him as a reconnaissance pilot.
Which is pretty remarkable, isn't it? Recovering from something like that, and your first thought is, get back in a cockpit in wartime.
Tells you everything, right? About his sense of duty, his connection to France.
So, after France fell, the sources say he spent time in the U.S. and Canada, about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And he wasn't just sitting quietly. He was out there advocating for France's liberation, speaking out.
And condemning the Vichy government pretty strongly, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. He was quite vocal about the collaborationist regime.
But the flying, he kept calling him back.
It seems so. I mean, despite his age by then, the old injuries, the whole political mess, he just kept asking, pushing to get back into active service against Germany.
And incredibly, they eventually said yes, April 1943.
Yeah, his persistence paid off. They let him go back. He served in reconnaissance units based around the Mediterranean.
Which, well, leads us to the end of that story.
The final flight, July 31st, 1944.
He took off from Corsica. A reconnaissance mission, right. Getting photos before Operation Dragoon.
Vital intelligence for the Allied landings in southern France. And, well, he just never came back.
Vanished.
8 days later, officially declared missing in action.
And that mystery just hung there for decades.
It did. Until, as the sources detail, this fascinating discovery much later.
Right. In 2000 and then 2003, parts of a P-38 Lightning found off Marseille.
Exactly. And this was near where, years before, a fisherman had found that silver bracelet.
With Saint X engraved on it.
Right. So when they pulled up those plane parts, they found a specific factory number, 20734.
Okay.
And they cross-referenced it. It matched the military serial number of Saint-Exupéry's specific P-38, 42-68223.
Wow. So conclusive.
Absolutely conclusive. After all that time, they'd found his plane. The same type of P-38 pictured in the readings, actually.
Okay, so that's the man of action, defined by duty, living with constant risk. And it's striking then, isn't it, that the sources point out he wrote his most famous book, The Little Prince, while he was in the U.S. during the war.
Yeah, during all that turmoil, personal, national.
And he crafts this. Well, the source calls it an allegorical novella.
Basically, yeah, a philosophical fairy tale, but really for adults.
And the core message, it seems so simple but profound.
That's what makes it stick, I think, as the sources put it. The things that really matter in life are simple. True wealth isn't stuff.
It's connection, love, friendship, spiritual values.
Exactly. And think about when it came out in 1943, New York, first in English.
Right in the middle of a world war.
This message of essential truths appearing amidst all that chaos, you can see why it struck such a chord.
It still does. Translated into, what, over 100 languages?
Yeah, it's one of the most loved books on the planet still.
Okay, let's really get into that message then. Specifically, that dialogue between the Little Prince and the fox. The sources spend quite a bit of time on this bit.
Rightly so. It's incredibly rich. This is where we get the concept of taming, or a taser in the original Russian text cited.
Taming.
And the fox says, "You only really know the things you tame. Pizzarisha, here is."
So knowledge isn't passive. It's about relationship, investment.
Precisely. Not just observing from a distance.
And then the fox makes this point that feels, well, almost uncomfortably relevant today.
About time.
Yeah. People don't have time to learn things anymore. They just buy stuff ready-made.
Right. But you can't buy friends in a store.
So people don't have friends.
Wow.
That's quite a critique, isn't it? linking consumerism to this, like fundamental lack of connection.
It really is. What does it say if the most important things aren't commodities?
So the prince asks, okay, how do you do it? How do you tame the fox?
And the instructions. They sound simple, but they demand real intention. First, patience.
You need patience. Sit apart at first. Just look. Don't talk.
And this part's key. Ożmija. Ösh. Ösh. Be silent. Words just interfere with understanding.
Silence. Over-talking. That kind of goes against our grain now, doesn't it? All the constant chat.
It suggests a deeper level of connection is needed, beyond just words.
And routine. Ritual. That's important too.
Hugely. Seekers come at the same time every day, say 4 o'clock.
And if you come at 4, the fox says he'll start getting happy from 3.
Yeah. That anticipation builds because of the ritual, the dependability. As the time gets closer, his happiness grows. And he says, "Iki, I will know the price of happiness."
The price, meaning the effort, the waiting, the vulnerability of looking forward to something.
I think so. It's not passive. It involves volition, effort.
Then the parting. After this bond is formed, the fox says he'll cry.
Mm-hmm.
The prince points out, well, that hurts. Maybe he shouldn't have tamed him.
But the fox's reply, it's incredibly moving. "No, I am happy." Or, "It's good for me."
Even with the pain.
The connection itself, the experience, was worth the sadness of parting. The value wasn't in avoiding pain, but in feeling that connection.
Which leads straight into the fox's secret. Probably the most famous line.
The source quotes it directly. "Izobifalin anasikum 5. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye."
A direct challenge to just looking at the surface.
Yeah.
What we can see and measure.
Absolutely. And right after that comes the responsibility part.
Ah, yes. Maizi Avtokovnat. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed.
And the fox adds, people have forgotten this truth.
Forgotten it. Taming isn't temporary. It creates this lasting obligation. That feels heavy, thinking about how fleeting connections can seem today.
It's a weighty idea. And these themes, they aren't just in The Little Prince. The sources show they pop up in his other writings, too.
Right, like from The Wisdom of the Sands.
Yeah, there's this definition of friendship and love that, well, it sets an incredibly high bar.
Go on.
He's still show, missioner show. Shustov, vengeance is recognized by the absence of disappointment.
Wow, no disappointment.
And true love by the impossibility of being offended.
The impossibility. How do you even get there? That implies such deep acceptance. Or maybe focusing on someone's core, not their mistakes.
It suggests something profound, doesn't it? And then from wind, sand, and stars, or homidrak, another powerful thought.
Which is...
Oh, no. No, 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 sakta. Ano nosta. Nosta do nostas nosta. Ai lostna. Loto simitrodon. Leko nosta elostor.
The greatness of any craft, maybe above all, is that it unites people. Oh, zoshi sias nostama miches. Because nothing's more precious than the bonds connecting people.
So he saw flying, his craft, as a way to build connection. With fellow pilots, ground crew.
With humanity, yeah. Not just a technical skill. And he contrasts this with just chasing material stuff.
Ah, the critique of materialism again.
He says if you work only for material goods, we build our own prison.
Locking ourselves in loneliness.
Right. All our riches are just dust and ashes, powerless to give us what makes life worth living.
That's stark.
But he contrasts it with what he sees as real treasures. You know, old friends, you can't make those quickly.
No, it takes time.
They're built over years. Shared memories, tough times, arguments, making up. Like planting an oak, he says. Takes patience, care.
And he uses examples from his flying life, right? Things money can't buy.
Exactly. That bond with a comrade like Mermoz, forged through danger, you can't buy that.
Or the feeling of flying alone at night, under the stars.
Yeah, that sense of clarity, your soul feeling, I don't know, powerful for a moment, or landing after a really rough flight.
And suddenly the world looks brand new.
Vibrant. The trees, the flowers, people's smiles. Everything seems intensely alive because life felt fragile but was giving back. Those experiences, that's wealth.
So when you look at his life, the pilot, the constant danger, the resilience, those intense, maybe solitary experiences up there.
It makes so much sense, doesn't it? You see exactly how it shaped his writing.
Yeah, the direct grappling with the physical world, with life and death, relying on others, facing the elements. It wasn't just background.
It was the very ground his philosophy grew from. Connection, responsibility, what really matters underneath it all.
It wasn't just abstract thinking. It was lived, forged in action.
And the sources give us that final, really powerful quote that kind of sums it all up.
Which one's that?
Illegre, Pilor, Illegre. You live in your actions, not in your body. You are your actions, and there is no other you.
Wow. You are your actions. That really makes you think.
It does.
Okay, that feels like a powerful place to pause for this deep dive. We've covered quite a bit. Saint-Exupéry, the pilot, the patriot.
Delved into those profound, sometimes challenging lessons from The Little Prince about connection, patience, responsibility.
And touched on his ideas about real wealth and true friendship from his other works as well.
And his core message, really forged in his own experiences, focus on what's essential, what's invisible to the eye, the value of human bonds, the weight of our actions. It still feels incredibly relevant, doesn't it?
Especially today.
Yeah.
In a world that can feel very superficial sometimes. So maybe we'll leave you with that core idea from Saint-Exupéry to mull over. If, as he puts it, you are your actions and there is no other you.
Then the question becomes,
What actions are you taking? What actions are defining who you are and what you really value?